It's that time of year when folks are out enjoying the outdoors, especially Canada's provincial and national parks. But the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society is putting out the word about some hidden gems. In addition to being in the backyards of multiple provinces, they are also likely to be much less crowded than more popular destinations. So Katie Morrison is the executive director of the Southern Alberta chapter of the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society. She joins me now from Calgary. Katie, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, lovely to have you. So, Katie, I believe that there are about 45 parks on your list. So, how did you go about selecting these hidden gems?
Well, we know that this year the federal government gave free admission to national parks,
Mhm.
and so those national parks are well known, they're well loved, and they're places that a lot of people go anyways, um, and even more so now with the free admission. So we just wanted to highlight some other parks across the country and here in southern Alberta. Um, that people could go to maybe get away from the crowds, explore new places, maybe experience some new ecosystems or some new cultural experiences, and really get to know their backyards outside of just those well-known national parks. So we looked in southern Alberta. We looked at um, some of the parks that maybe um, people hadn't heard of, or that gave different experience than some of the national parks. So grassland ecosystems are smaller areas, more close to urban centers that would provide good experiences for
Yeah,
people.
for sure. So, since we are based in Alberta and you're with the Southern Alberta chapter of Canadian Parks and Wilderness, let's talk about those first. So, yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about there's one called Brown Lowry Provincial Park. It's southwest of Calgary. So, what's special about that one?
Yeah, Brown Lowry is a beautiful little park just close to Calgary. So it makes, if you live in Calgary, it's a nice day trip out to Calgary. We do at CPAW Southern Alberta, we do school programs and hiking programs. And that's one of the places that we take our programs because it's got um, great trails that wind through both grasslands and mature forest. It's got beautiful outlooks in the spring, there's wildflowers. You can see a lot of wildlife, but it's well set up. It's well marked. It's a place that you can go for a day and really explore the foothills of Alberta.
Oh, beautiful. And then northwest of Calgary, you're telling folks about Bill Hill Springs Provincial Park.
Yeah, Big Hill Springs Provincial Park. That's another one that we chose. It's a very tiny little place, but it is one of those ones that maybe you might drive past on your way out to the mountains and not even know it's there. But it's another place that is really close that you can take the family to. It was one of Alberta's first provincial parks. Um, it's got a little spring and small little waterfalls through
Hmm.
there. It's got some historic ruins of a fish hatchery. Um, just a really family friendly picnic spot, photography, relaxation day trip.
And it's one of Alberta's earliest provincial parks?
Yeah, it was created in the 50s, so one of the earliest parks that in our provincial park system.
Oh, that's wild. And I've heard that the waterfalls there are kind of like tiered, like spilling
Yeah,
over each other.
you
That's
know, it's not a
gorgeous.
massive, big, Niagara
Right.
Falls
Yeah.
waterfall, but it's
Yeah.
a beautiful little stream coming from that
Hmm.
spring.
That's awesome. Okay, and here in the south, there's Castle Provincial Park west of Pincher Creek. So, what can visitors find there?
Well, Castle Provincial Park, in contrast, is one of Southern Alberta's newest parks. So it became a park in 2017 after a lot of advocacy and work from local groups and conservation organizations. And it's much more that classic Rocky Mountain montane forest, beautiful valleys. It's also very important for conservation. It's a wildlife corridor, home to um, a lot of those charismatic megafauna that you see in the mountains, grizzly bears, black bears, elk, cutthroat trout. And it's also one of the areas of the highest biodiversity in the province, with more than 200 rare at-risk species. So it's got both front country campgrounds, comfort camping, as well as backcountry trails, backcountry camping, hiking, fishing, mountain biking. It's really just a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yes, no, it is gorgeous for sure. I've been in the area because I ski out near that area and it is lovely. But it's true, most people kind of head to the national parks. But I know it's really popular, that castle area. And okay, so speaking of southern Alberta, we'll look a little bit further south from Lethbridge on the way to Montana. There is a place called Writing on Stone Provincial Park. Most of us in Lethbridge are very familiar with it. I've been there a number of times. It's absolutely gorgeous. Tell us about Writing on Stone.
Yeah, writing on stone we picked because it was that grassland and cultural experience. So, people often think about going out for a day trip or going for a hike, and they think about the mountains. But the grasslands are an amazing place to explore, and along the Milk River and those coulees, grassland wildlife that you don't see in the mountains, like pronghorn or maybe some rattlesnakes or grassland birds. So beautiful, beautiful grassland ecosystem. And it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which um, means it's internationally recognized for particularly its cultural importance. It's very important, and you can learn a lot about Indigenous history and Blackfoot history in that region, going back to time immemorial. There's petroglyphs and pictographs, so rock carvings and paintings from many years ago from Indigenous people in that land. It's got great interpretation, so you can learn not just about maybe an ecosystem you don't explore as much, but also more about Alberta's history, and particularly First Nations history.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Writing on Stone is really celebrated also for those dramatic sandstone hoodoos. It's just so famous to that. It's like nothing, you feel like you're on another planet a little bit when you're down there. It's almost like being in the desert too. It's really, really cool. And then, like you said, those pictographs and petroglyphs, and nestled right on the Milk River, you can camp there. It's a campground. So yeah, it's lovely, that area. And then what else? So I know we don't have time necessarily for all 45 of the parks that you guys are showcasing, but what are some of the other parks in other provinces that you'd like to mention?
Well, I think there. If you look at the map, there are places in our chapters across Canada have picked some of their gems that they have within their provinces, and so I would encourage people to check out what's across Canada, and maybe if you're going on a road trip this year or next year, plan to stop at some of those places in Saskatchewan or Manitoba, because all across Canada we have beautiful wilderness sites, and even here in Alberta, we picked four of these lesser known gems for the site, but Alberta has over 400 parks and protected areas, some of them quite small, some of them quite large. And so I'd really encourage people to go on the albertaparks.ca website and look at those little lesser known gems or those places in their own backyards, and go and visit and explore what Alberta has to offer, or these other parks across Canada.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, with Canadians choosing, a lot of Canadians choosing to stay in country this summer and those free passes for the parks, what better time to go kind of checking them out, right?
So we know Albertans love their parks. We know that um, Albertans love to be outdoors, and Albertans are really engaged in their park system. So also just encouraging folks to continue to stay engaged in the management of these places, and encouraging government to create more parks, or you know manage well these really special places that we have here.
Yeah, I mean, it might be worth mentioning also that since everyone is kind of, doing the same thing, checking out these parks, the problem could be that everyone else is likely doing it, and so a lot of the more popular destinations, like the Watertons and the Banff and the Jaspers, so those places could get crowded. So I guess the good news is that we have a solid 45 parks that most Canadians overlook in favor of more popular destinations, right? So these really are hidden little gems open for exploration.
Absolutely, get out there and explore.
Yeah. Katie Morrison is the executive director of the Southern Alberta chapter of the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society. That's a mouthful. Thanks so much for being with us today, Katie.
Thanks for having me on.
I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.